Hello, and welcome to the Social Power Lab podcast, brought to you by Vokes Leadership Group.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Social Power Lab episode 60. I'm everyone's favorite 3.7% German boy, Adrian Deschamps II. And of course, we got Dr. Ted Vokes, the myth, the legend, the one they call instead of the Ghostbusters.
I always just wait. I just wait every week. I just wait. How are you going to try to embarrass me next?
Yeah.
If I believed all the nice things you say about me, I wouldn't like myself. But it's kind of you to say.
I mean, I just kind of,
Call me when you need the Ghostbusters.
who are you going to call? Dr. Vokes. Oh my God, you know that Kiss song? The
Which
Calling Dr. Love, right? Calling
oh
Dr.
wow.
Vokes. There we go.
Dare you? Oh yeah.
I'm gonna rewrite
I've
that.
missed my calling. Apparently, I
Or
should have been Dr.
Dr.
Love.
Feelgood by Motley Crue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Vokes good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Dr. Pepper. There's all kinds of.
Dr. Pepper. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Today we got a fun topic. It's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
I use it so much. I used it today actually. I was
Did you?
yeah, I was helping a friend out. She was in an argument with her significant other about fixing her car. And she said something funny to me. She's like, "Why is communication so hard?" And I'm like, "Well, what's the thing?" And it turns out that she's a very intuitive thinker, and she was giving, you know, messaging to a sensor that was not completely direct, right?
Right, right.
So, the choice of words was, "Can you help me with this?" And the sensor said, "Yeah." And he sent some ideas of how to help.
Mhm,
But what she wanted was like, can you come over and look at the car?
mhm.
And so I said to her, I'm like, so you probably got to say to him, can you come over and look at the car? Because to you, intuitively, that means that the whole process is going to be helped out with. But that's
And for those of you listening at home, this will make sense, I
this will
promise.
make sense
But
in about
yes,
by the
this
end of the
will
hour.
hold. That's it. Yes. Yeah, because we're going to talk about personality. The big five minus one is what we're going to be talking about today, and power and how power relates to personality. And we might get into temperament too, which is foundational to the psyche. If you look to the gray onion model that will be up on the screen as we are talking, you can situate the constructs that we're going to be talking about today and into this picture of the psyche, the mind in a cultural context. That's where we're kind of going today, and bringing in social power, which is something that is partly ingrained in us and partly learned. And so you'll see that it is on the outer ring of the gray onion when you're looking at inside the head. Um, just the gray onion. We didn't call it that. Actually, showing it to people in training and in our classes at college and university, people called it the gray onion model, and then they abbreviated it to the grunion. But that's another thing. Um, it's descriptive. It works. So that's a good
The
thing.
Grunion.
The grunion. Yeah. So that image is what's up there. That this is a central model that we use in our practice to help people understand themselves in relation to other people, themselves in relation to culture that cultures that they occupy, and to understand how different people are inclined to use power differently. So it's a major piece in leadership training as well that we do. But it applies to all of social life. So so that's the layered gray onion grunion model, and we'll be getting into culture later on. We're going to stay to personality and possibly temperament today, and and explore that together. So, what do you got to
Hmm.
add, Adrian? Mm-hmm.
Just a side of mustard and some pickle juice to that. We're going to be talking about all these words that you might have heard before, just in different places around the internet, different books, different conversations. Right, introverts, extroverts,
Yep.
are the most common ones that are heard. But essentially, everyone has a four-letter personality type, and we're going to help you identify what your four letters might be. No one's going to know better than yourself, so that's one thing, right? We often want to give the disclaimer of when you're thinking about yourself and your personality, think about who you are when you get home from work and you kick your shoes off and you're just being you, right? There's
Yep.
no role pressures on you. There's no, like, you don't have to be anything for anybody in those moments, like just in your most pure state of like, this is me, cool as a cucumber right now, doing what I love doing, being who I am, right, with no pressures. That's how we want to think about your personality, right?
Yep.
For example, if you see me in a, well, not so much anymore because I'm just, I just be myself, and whoever doesn't like it can, you know, still hang out, but they're
Take a
not.
flying something.
Um,
That's it.
but in the past when I worked in jobs, I would tend to, what's the word? Oh my God, words are so hard today. I
So
would
we're
tend
having
to,
difficulty wording, are we?
yeah, difficulty wording. I would tend to come off more structured and organized than I actually am.
Ah,
So
yes.
because my roles demanded it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in
Totally.
reality, like, I'm the type of person that, like, I don't know what I'm eating for dinner until 2 minutes before. I go look in the fridge and I'm like, oh, there's a piece of meat. Do I have a bag of potatoes somewhere? Oh, sweet. All right. Do I have stock to put in the crock pot? Let's go. Like, that's you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's who I am, right? But then, there's
That's
different
personality
roles,
based.
personality based, right? And Ted knows this because we're opposites on that dimension,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
it's pretty funny. Yeah,
Well,
lots of.
most people who would meet me in a training context will, or when doing the professor thing, will assume that I'm an extrovert, and everybody on our team knows I'm deeply introverted.
Hmm.
So I can do the extroverting, I can love it, but yeah, but we'll get into that. It's just an example of the plasticity of the 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 ego, the person, to adapt to different situations, but it doesn't deny that we have a core personality.
Hmm.
So, so what I think we're going to do is go through four of the five of the big five and show them to you in sort of you're going to get a quick primer on these dimensions, and like Adrian's saying, you can figure it out in most cases, what your preferences are. And again, back to that kick your shoes off self. Um, who are you when no one is looking? What kinds of activities are you engaged in that require far less energy than other things? Takes me a lot of energy to extrovert, even though I love it. And and when the weekends are coming and I've been extroverting a lot, I'm going to guard that weekend very, very carefully. Um, but yeah, whereas Adrian is going to go into the weekend and it's going to be action packed with a lot of folks in most
My
cases.
my last weekend it was just birthday parties back to back. Like, I
Yeah.
had 30th birthday party for a friend, and then a 23rd birthday party for a cousin. That my niece was at, by the way. If anybody was wondering, she forgives me. She was mad at me the week
She
before.
was, yeah, she was, she
She said,
was,
"I'm
she's
I'm mad
nice.
at Uncle Adrian,"
Yeah.
and I was
And
devastated.
you were crushed. I know.
Her
I saw
vocabulary is coming through so much now; it's just so funny. But anyways, I saw her and she ran to me, and
that's,
I asked for a big hug, and she ran to me smiling. So I've been forgiven, everyone. Just in case you were wondering.
yeah,
Um,
no,
but yeah,
I was worried for you.
this weekend was all extroverting, right? And it was great. Um, yeah, lots of socializing. I didn't run out of jokes. That's that's a good thing too. I don't think I ever run out of jokes, so I kind of just
No, you don't. You
make them
create
on
them
the
on the
spot.
fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, and if there were if I have to be very, very close to somebody before I'm going to go to a birthday party, I will send a gift if I don't know you well. But I would be at Adrian's birthday. I haven't missed any of those, right?
Yeah.
Any of our team members, family. But we introverts have a large number of acquaintances and a small, tight circle of friends. And extroverts, they sort of define that broad circle of acquaintances as friends. So much, much more energy for many people in their lives. And
Hmm.
I see you go through your weekends, and I think, oh my God, if I did a weekend like that, I have done weekends like that, but then I need recovery time. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I
So,
guess you kind of, well, no, we'll
kind
start
of,
that.
yes, let's talk introvert extrovert, which in the big five parlance is just extroversion. So, how extroverted are you in the big five? But in type theory, which is the framing that we're sort of utilizing here, introvert or extrovert, and it's a continuum. Like almost everything in psychology, there's very few black and whites. It's I'm not the most introverted person I've ever met, but I'm pretty strongly introverted. And I know this from working with the theory and meeting a lot of people and meeting people who, would sort of make me look extroverted. Um, and so sometimes you will come across as you're introverted and your friend's introverted, but there's so much more so you look extroverted. So it is personality is in relation to others, if you will, as well. But what are you going to add there, Adrian?
I don't know. I was going to add there. I think it's just see, extrovert.
So yeah, so
Something appeared
extroverts,
and then vanished.
they get energy but through social interaction and interacting with the external world. That's their draw. Oh, there's people over there. They must want me to talk to them. And Ian Adrian goes, right? And thank heavens, because all the networking events that we do, I just like to follow Adrian around and stand there and wait to be introduced. He doesn't wait. He
I
does the introductions.
walk right up. I compliment people on their beards. I
Hmm.
compliment their ties, or I've probably met them somewhere before. That's a weird one too. Yeah. It's interesting, and there's some neuroscience behind it too. So something called what is, you know what, Ted, keep talking. I need to remember what this neurotransmitter was, but there
Oh,
is
a particular neurotransmitter. Yeah. Well, the chronic level of cortical arousal is higher for introverts than for extroverts. So
yes.
everybody's trying to optimize.
Mm,
We introverts are trying to bring down the amount of cortical arousal going
ah,
on in
got it.
our brains, right? And so we want to limit the amount of information from the external world coming in. And extroverts are chronically understimulated on that cortical level and are looking for data, information, interaction to bring in. So everybody's trying to optimize,
Yes.
but it's a difference. So what tell us about the
And the
neurotransmitters?
and the cortical, the neurotransmitter of this cortical level that we're speaking of is acetylcholine. So essentially, introverts have more of a natural transmission of acetylcholine, and therefore, if there's too much external stimulation, it can be overwhelming, exhausting, right? Because there's already enough, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't want the cup overflowing. Whereas extroverts, they're lower in acetylcholine, so they're actually seeking it, right? They're seeking it for external stimulus. So that's why, like, we, I have a friend that does flower deliveries, and he calls all of us when he's just working his day job because he just wants to talk while he's driving around, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The extrovert. This is lonely in this car without somebody to
Yeah,
talk to.
exactly, right.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's other things like as an extrovert, when I work from home, I always have music on.
Hmm.
Always. Like it's like I listen to full discographies. I'll be like, is today Led Zeppelin day? Sure, let's go. Right?
Right.
And that's just, yeah, and people, my introverted people will look at that and be like, isn't that just like distracting or overwhelming or annoying, or like does it feel like too much? I'm like, no, it feels too quiet if I'm, just here and it's silent and I'm trying to I can't focus if it's quiet, actually.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's kind of interesting in that way. And yeah, I mean, introverts and extroverts, they both have these great strengths and also these great flaws that are so funny to talk about.
Hmm.
I definitely have some extroversion stories that have gotten me in trouble.
Well, and introverted stories that get me into trouble. So there's nothing wrong with being introverted or extroverted. It's when we over rely on and don't develop some plasticity, right? So had I not developed the ability to, be in the day before I knew about personality theory, more outgoing. There's a whole lot of things that I would not have undertaken in my life that I'm really glad I have and do. Um, so I am comfortable putting myself out there in front of people, but um, it comes with the cost, and that is that come a weekend, I need my introverting time, and and we can introvert with people we know well. So I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. Actually, we were talking about it. How a good friend and family are around for a weekend. That's one thing. That's introverting. But you introduce somebody new to that picture, and it's now just one person, but I don't know you, and I'm getting to know you. That's extroverting. And as much as I can enjoy it, it's tiring, right?
Hmm.
So there's introvert and extrovert in the nutshell. But how does that relate to social power? That's going to be we're challenging ourselves to
Yeah.
do this, link it, because it does link. You'll see social powers on that outer layer, and personality and temperament, which we'll be talking about next, are more foundational, more closer to the center of the psyche, and that means they're more inborn. They're more genetically determined, where social power, partly because it does relate to personality, but also learning. We can learn how to use the 12 forms of social power, but we may, I would say we do, on the basis of personality, have certain preferences as to how and when we use the 12 forms. We do use all of them, but
Hmm.
not with equal comfort. Some are more ego syntonic, that's a term we've been talking about throughout the series, and some are more ego dystonic. Some are more consistent with my identity. You see identity and neurotic loading right there in between personality and social power. And some are more inconsistent. So, when I was in the military, I was comfortable using my legitimate power in coercive or threat-based means. This platoon better pull its act together or it's going to lose its weekend pass. But I never parented that way. But I did see people in the military actually raise their kids as though they were, you know, recruits in the military. And I kind of went, that's ego dystonic to me. I wouldn't do that. I can do that with, you know, officer candidates, but I can't do that with, my little boy. So that's kind of an example there.
Hmm.
And that's very much consistent with my personality, by the way. That's very consistent, you know. So, but we are not prisoners of our personality. We do learn. We are learning creatures, and we can learn new ways of exercising power,
Hmm.
even when we have preferences. And I've had to do that in my life and my career too. So, get more comfortable with using some certain forms of power that might not come as naturally to me. So. having said all that, what do we know about introverts and extroverts and how they orient to power? Adrian, you're on the spot. Run
Oh,
with it, man.
okay. I love being on the spot. So, I mean, the working hypothesis is that, what does an introvert desire and what does a extrovert desire, right? What is the intended effect? So, as an extrovert, I can say, I utilize, you know, referent power a lot because I want people to be comfortable engaging with me, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I do a lot. I've had situations before where I've called my buddy, my buddy that was in my psych undergrad with me when Ted was actually our professor at one point. And I'd call him, this friend of mine, with a problem, and I would solve my own problem on the phone with him before he said anything. He'd be like,
Oh,
"How's it?"
yes.
He'd be like, "How's it going, man?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going all right. I got this going on and XYZ, and and then this." I'm telling him the story. He's like, "Mm-hmm." And I'm like, "You know what? I should probably just try this." Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna commit to it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna let you know how it goes. Thanks so much, man. He's like, "Hey, buddy, I always got you." Hung up. I go solve the problem, and I'm like, "Holy hell! Like I didn't actually, he didn't actually say anything.
No.
He said hello
Uh-huh.
and goodbye,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Hello. Mm-hmm.
right?"
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, that's all you need for extroverts because they think out loud,
Mm-hmm.
right? They
And
they think out loud.
I mean, with power, what forms of power are at your disposal to get social connection, to get external stimulation, right? It can be any of the 12, but I mean, how are you going to utilize them, right?
Yeah.
Some people really love to utilize expert power, right?
Mm-hmm.
To express what they know to others, right?
Yeah.
Other people want to use subordinate power so that they, kind of put other people front and center so that they, talk to them, right? So that they're
Mm-hmm.
engaging in the conversation. Yeah, reputation oriented power. That's something I'm still kind of getting used to with myself because with podcast and, I do some media stuff sometimes on like AIM 800 and stuff. And like, it's funny, like I'll go to a somewhere and
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
like I'll be
To
with
an
a
event.
mutual friend somewhere and then I'll have somebody be like, "Oh, I heard you on this radio station," or I saw you on LinkedIn, or actually this happened to me
Yeah.
the other day at this my cousin's birthday party. Was somebody was with you? I'll talk to you about it after, but they were on a board with you and they said, "How's my man Ted Vokes doing?" And I'm like, he's like, "I saw you on the LinkedIn post and the podcast," and I'm like, small world. Like, how did we? I met this guy like 3 times, right?
Right.
And he knows about us, and that was like extroversion fuel, right? I was like, oh, cool. Now I got something to talk to this guy about, and then he told me about his experience with you on the board, and I told him what we do now, and then it was like, oh, cool. And then yeah, so it was really cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then yeah, so it was great. It was just an excuse to have a beer and talk with a guy, right? Like it was,
Mm-hmm.
and that worked, right? That was me. So that was reputation power mixed with referent power once that reputation power was established,
Yeah.
right? Network power because we both knew you.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these things were at play. And then, of course, it was, satisfying my extroversion along with
Yeah.
other personality traits I have. But,
Yeah.
so it's all of these, like, this is the thing about social psychology that kind of really gets me, like, super deep into it is like everything connects.
Yeah.
And we haven't even finished the frickin' map yet. Like that's what kind of kills me. Like I almost picture social psychology as like a giant spider web where there's just all these things connecting. And if you're a dork like me, it's neurons connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like personalities connected to power, which is connected to organizations of self, which we're going to talk about in the next
Next one.
two
Yeah.
episodes,
Yeah.
one or two. And then that's connected to like our brain function and oh my god, like it's all interconnected, right?
Yeah.
And
And that's
personality
what
is. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's what the gray onion model is
Yeah.
is the integration. And it actually takes up a position in an even grander model that one day we might talk about, but the grand unification theory of social psychology, we actually have that and we use that as the backdrop of all of our work to position what's going on, like you're saying, all these connections between uh, psychological constructs and social psychological constructs. And by the way, social psychology is the home of personality. The clinicians get the personality disorders, we get the personality dimensions. And so everything we're talking about is personality based. We let the clinicians talk about personality too. It's okay, but the the traditions of social psychology and applied social psychology kind of contain the cores of personality. Uh, but I digress. We're still talking about introvert and extrovert and how they use and relate to power. I think we just said how extroverts really, because they make so many contacts, will often have a broader network.
Yes.
Um, right, and they'll be like, "Oh, I know so and so who can help with that." You know, really, you know somebody? Oh yeah, you know. Um, and so I have had to throughout my career push myself to network more, and I don't have the even this broad circle of acquaintances grows kind of organically from the work I do and some of the networking. But I could always do more networking, but I would come at a cost. So yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's just interesting how that goes. And if you think about like a lot of your favorite movie characters and rivalries, right? That's I love those examples of introversion and extroversion, right? Captain America and Iron Man for the Avengers fans out there, where you see them bicker. They actually have polar opposite personalities. I'll at the end of this, I'll tell you what their four letters are. And but to start, Captain America is an introvert and Iron Man is an extrovert, right? And you'll see if you watch the movies that Iron Man is always running his mouth, and Captain America is quiet until he has something to say, right?
right. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
and Captain America talks a lot, absolutely, but
Hmm.
everything that comes out of his mouth is meaningful and thought out, right?
Yeah. And
And
that's
they
we
butt
introverts.
so much. It's so funny. Yeah, there's a lot of good media examples.
Yeah. We think before we speak in most cases. And extroverts think by speaking. That's how Adrian, back to your story of our mutual friend who he just said, mm-hmm, uh-huh. And you thought it all out as you spoke, but until you got on that call, you were stuck, right?
Yeah.
And
Also,
yeah,
another funny thing that happens in our team meetings is, we kind of do this whole like go around the room,
yeah.
updates with everyone. And I try to go last because I know I'm not going to shut up for like 20 minutes. And I often, I got in the habit of asking permission when someone's like, Adrian, do you have any thoughts? I'm like, well, is everyone done? Because,
Mm-hmm. Because I'm
permission,
ready to go.
permission to go off and hit the clouds because that's, that's where I'm going to go. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
And both introverts and extroverts shape reality for other people.
mhm,
And um, in meetings, just by if we're only looking at personality type alone, because your role in a meeting may be that, yeah, well, I'm the team leader, so I have to open it up. I have to start, the talking and things. But let's just say personality alone. Extroverts come to the meeting and they are talking, right? They are talking through and they're shaping reality and they're getting data, information power is happening in that communication very, very naturally. And it may not even be about what the meeting's about. It could be about, oh, I just saw this movie this past weekend and you got to see it kind of thing, or don't go because it sucks or whatever that would be. Um, and we introverts will tend to be listening more than talking. Um, where we tend to shine and shape reality of groups is towards the middle or end of meetings because we've held back naturally. We're polishing up an idea. We may take a couple of notes, but it's not necessarily always about what somebody else is saying. It might be, so that we don't lose our train of thought because our we have a dialogue in our heads in most cases. And then, middle to end of meeting, well, what if we just do this? Oh, I didn't even know you were here, Ted. Nice of you to chime in. But we hang back by nature. And again, when it's my role to be front and center, then I'm front and center. That we're not prisoners of our personality, right?
No. And
But
before I forget, and before my natural extroversion takes over, we'll come back after this break.
The Social Power Lab podcast is sponsored by Vokes Leadership Group, a Canadian based local and internationally active practice in industrial and organizational psychology. We help organizations of every size and sector develop leaders and transform culture. We do this by ethically deploying social power through science based training, coaching, consulting, surveys, and personnel selection. If you're dealing with challenges in engagement, conflict, resistance to change, or crisis, Vokes Leadership Group is ready to meet you where you're at. Visit vokesleadershipgroup.com to learn how our team can support your culture and leadership goals today.
Welcome back, introverts and extroverts. Happy to have you back here, and continuing talking about personality. And I'm kind of excited to reveal like the Captain America, Iron Man personalities at the end.
personality types, yeah, yeah. Well,
Another movie,
you got the first one, right?
yeah, the first one. And another movie that has a great contrast of personality is Pitch Perfect. If you've ever seen that one,
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
it's hilarious. It's great. It's about a singing group, and an all-female singing group. And there's a clash between the two main characters and their opposite personalities. It's very fun. So, do we want to go to the next dimension, or do we?
Yeah, I think we better. Yeah, let's go to the next one. In the parlance of the Big Five, this one is referred to as openness. And it's a question of how open to experience and possibilities and whatnot somebody might be. You could be high on openness or low on openness. But in type theory parlance, it's intuition versus sensing. And so those are the two ends of the continuum. And why don't you take this one there, Adrian?
All right. So second letter is going to either be an S for sensing or an N for intuition. And
Because we already used the I for introverted, right? So they go
Yeah.
to the N there, yeah.
Gotta use the N. And
Yeah.
so sensing. The way that I like to describe it is that folks with a sensing preference are very concrete, very practical, very literal in terms of that they really take in information and analyze information using the five senses. So, when you think about I always like your example of like building a TV set or something. Or actually IKEA furniture, right? Like let's say something is in the mail from IKEA, right? The sensor is going to open the box, right? They're going to find the instruction manual and then they're going to do an inventory check, right? And line up their pieces to make sure that everything is in the right place and we're not going to lose anything, right? And, sensors, they also do extremely well with sequence, right? So if things have an order to them or a formula or a process, it's really like they really thrive at that. My story about my friend earlier, you know, her spouse is a sensor where she's an intuitive, and like I said, the sensor is very literal, very practical, very, you know, If you have a problem, they're going to give you a very practical solution to solve it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, she was like, I think my engine's leaking. And, his advice to her was like, okay, well, slip some or park it somewhere on the street where you can, where the road's clean enough where you can see that there's a leak, or throw a piece of cardboard under it, and then you'll be able to know, right? But what she wanted really was like, well, like, could you come over and look at it, right? But she didn't say, can you come over and look at it? She said, you know,
Roundabout, an allusion to I have a problem.
yeah,
You should step, and I'm hoping you'll step in and say, well, why don't I come over and look at it?
hmm
Right. Yeah.
yeah. And, when they talk about people thinking outside the box, that's more of an intuitive thing because the sensor tends to open the box and see what's inside to work with, right?
Hmm.
So, like, when we think sensors, people that have really good skill sets, and anybody can do any job, right? Like, our buddy Dave that was on the one episode, he's an engineer, he's fantastic, right? And he's an intuitive.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of the time, you have people with a sensing preference that gravitate more towards engineering or trades, or being auto mechanics, or
Physical, hands-on,
yeah, like
lots of
very very
practical,
concrete
pragmatic.
things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really really cool, right? I have friends that they're just like, they blow me away with what they can do. My friend Alan, he can rip apart a computer, put it back. Like, that's what he did in grade school. I'm talking, I'd go to his house and he'd have his desktop computer torn apart. Like, everything's on the floor, and I'm anxious for him. I'm like, how are you going to put that back together? He's like, oh, it's easy, right? And he
Right.
just knows where everything goes.
They
And
have a greater grasp for detail
yeah,
and and discrete facts and things like that. Whereas
yes,
intuitives, we kind of get themes and patterns, and we'll sweat the details only when we need to have to do it,
yeah,
right? Right. So yeah, IKEA. Oh, I know how to do this. And the picture in the cover of the box is all the instructions I need, and then we
yeah.
dive in, and of course we do it out of sequence, and then we have to undo half of what we did to put that one piece in that we didn't wasn't on the picture on the cover of the box,
Oh, it's
at
just
least
part of
wasn't
it.
visible there, right? Yeah. And uh, my son and I buy these camping barbecues that last for a few years, and they're really good. It's the same one every time, but I think out of probably since probably over the many years that we've been camping together and whatnot, and we started when he was like 4. We've had 5 or 6 of them, and he on the one that we just most recently built finally got the push starter to work, right?
Mhm.
They all come with a push starter, but this is the first time we've ever actually done that. But it's all right. We'll just use a lighter. Whereas the sensors would be like, no, this isn't. It's got a push starter. It should be able to you push it, and it should light. uh,
Mhm.
you know, uh, yeah. So
Yeah,
so that's
one of
go
my
ahead.
favorite examples is cooking. So when a sensor cooks, they're going to be like, okay, we need, 3 milliliters of salt, zero point 0.5 milliliters of cumin. We're going to, I don't know, boil the broth for 2 minutes exactly, stir, and then put the spice, like, very regimented, right?
Hmm.
And then if you cook with an intuitive, they're like, I'll never forget Chef Mark. Chef Mark, wherever you are nowadays, I miss you, buddy. Chef Mark was the awesome, awesome guy. He was this chef that I used to work with. And he was so intuitive. It was hilarious. I thought it, because I knew personality theory at the time. And I was just watching everybody else in the group, right? Sensors were like, what on earth is this guy saying? When he wanted you to put like some salt and stir it, He didn't say put in some salt and stir it. He said give it a little hey how you doing. That's what that's what he said, and he showed you like he put this thing. He's like,
Yeah.
just give it a little hey how you doing, pinch of this, just stir it right, um, or like just throw some of this in there, right? And well, how much? I just do it till it smells good, right? Like that's an intuitive
Yeah.
thing, right?
Hmm.
Is you're not going by exact numbers and exact figures and processes. You're going by essentially what feels right or like your gut feeling on things,
Yeah.
right? And that's why it's so funny, and that's why I'm so impressed with sensors, is because I'm not one, as I'm sure many can tell. And my friend Alan, like I said, that can rip a computer apart. He could do the same thing with a car, right? Anytime my car broke, like there was like the stupidest thing one time. I had a 2006 Ford Escape, and there was, oh, I forget what this part was called. A tone ring? Yeah, a tone ring. And it was this like little metal ring that went around the strut of before the wheel went on. And there was a chip in it, and it was making my car like jolt when I was driving. Like I'd be driving like right, and I'd feel it, and I'm like, my wheel's gonna fall off. My wheel wasn't gonna fall off. It was just this little ring. In order to get to this little ring, though, you had to take like the whole front end off. It was terrible. And I was so stressed out by this, and my buddy Alan was like, "All right, let's go!" Like he was so excited for it. And then we tore apart my car in the driveway. Of course, my parents come out and they're like, "Oh dear God, what are you doing?" Because they know that I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And yeah, like there was no YouTubing it. There was no like, "Hey Adrian, grab me the manual." Like it was just he remembered exactly what we took out in what order. We put it back exactly in the same order. I was like,
Oh yeah.
"You're like incredible." And he's like, "It's literally the most basic thing. Just pay attention to what you do and then
Hmm.
do it in reverse." I'm like, that's hard."
Oh yeah. For our brains, I'm intuitive too,
Yeah.
and it's like if I will actually um, have to film if something is seasonal, right? And it's working. So back when I would install an air conditioner in a window, I'd work it out, I'd get it in, this back in grad school days, and then I'd have to take pictures of it before I disassembled it because I won't remember how I did it the year before, right? Whereas sensors will tend to have much more of a grasp of that. Oh, this piece, this is where we, put this in as a spacer with the window. And so, yeah. And then I'll likely forget that I took pictures and I'll have to refigure it all out again. But um, where sensors, if they've done the job before, there's a sequence and they follow it comfortably. And so, yeah, that's and they're more present centered, and we intuitives are really future focused.
Yeah.
We can miss out on the present because we're so already imagining. You know, my son and I camp together. He's intuitive too, and we'll be in the woods for 10 days, and by day 3 or 4, we're already imagining next year's camping trip, right? Even though we're enjoying it now, but somebody who came camping with us at one point who was a sensor was like, yeah, but what about, this afternoon? What are we going to do this afternoon? Never mind what campground are we going to go do next year? You know, what are we going to do now? Oh yeah, I guess we should think about that, right? Um, so yeah, and so how does this relate now that you know the big picture, future focused themes, concepts? That's the intuitive side, the strong or a high in openness to experience and sensors, practical, present centered, matter of fact, say what you mean what you say, kind of orientation. And of course, it's always on a continuum. And there's some times where we have to do the other, but it takes us more energy to do the other. Sensor can go to a strategic planning session that's looking at 3 to 5 years down the road, and they can do it. It's just where their natural focus would be what do I do next today? Um, but I can do the detail work um, to get ready for a training, you know, uh, session, and make sure that I show up at the right time in the right place with the right equipment and the right number of packages to hand out. I can do it. It takes me some energy, but I can.
Hmm.
So, so now power. Let's bring in power here.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are we seeking as sensors or as intuitives, right? Intuitives, we're seeking patterns, we're seeking the big picture, we're seeking the underlying meaning, right? We're seeking kind of that open, abstract process of doing things. So we're gonna feel, and this is just my personal experience, is that when there are forms of power used on me that makes me feel like I need to stay in a straight line, I get very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's like, strict regiments or, steps to follow, I'm like, ugh, right? It's
Yeah.
exhausting. So I often will use forms of power to, kind of create comfort with an open process, right? Hence the openness to experience.
Mm-hmm.
So like, with collaboration, I'll use lots of like expert power to kind of show that there's like alternative ways to try things, right? To kind of encourage that like Miss Frizzle mentality from the Magic School Bus, if anyone's ever watched that. Get messy, make mistakes, right? And let's see where
Mm-hmm.
we end up. Whereas, I feel sensors would very much use power to kind of keep things sequential and step by step and make sure that everything is accounted for, to make sure that everything is detail oriented. That's why in a lot of big projects we have like project managers and stuff, right, to kind of keep everything on track. And this person's responsible for this, and you break down the pieces of that. And yeah, so kind of getting these needs met and these desires met through how you cognitively want to execute things is how I think power would be used.
Yeah, and there's so much in what you're saying. You know, because everybody thinks that their personality is what everybody else is using, and that's just not the case, right? And so, if I'm going to use reality shaping power, I'm going to go for big picture concept, future focus, and that's going to work with Adrian, or at least he's going to engage with me in that domain of shaping reality and what are the possibilities and that kind of thing. And sensors are going to be, well, what do you mean you got a feeling that we should go in this direction? Right? Back it up with facts, man, right? So my reality shaping efforts need to take into account that not everybody's an intuitive, that if I'm going to get people to buy in, I've got to give them what they need and sensors need more details, more sequence. How did you come to that conclusion? They may be able to say in the end, yeah, Ted, you know what? I see that's where what we should be doing 6 months from now. You know, we actually in our team, because we look very closely at social dynamics, political dynamics, economic dynamics around the globe. We predicted that the pandemic would hit and that there would be rushes on food and sort of supplies. And we as a team got together and we had these ongoing conversations, and that led to the determination that, hey, it's up to everybody in the team what they want to do. But we were stocking up on non-perishable foodstuffs. Um, I think about 2 months before the pandemic actually hit, and the one thing we didn't see was toilet paper. But hey, you know, we we had enough, and Kleenex doubles if you get into a hard spot there. But we all had uh, a pantry of non-perishable kinds of food in case. And so we were looking at the patterns, and a lot of us on the team are intuitive, but we have sensors on the team as well. And that enabled us to anticipate. And as we said, if we were wrong, we would have been happy, and we just would, I think we all, put, you know, 3 or 4 thousand into, stocking up on canned goods and pastas and bottled water and all the rest because we didn't know. None of us have been through a pandemic before. Um, but there were people who, outside our team, we didn't really share our conclusions only because we didn't think anybody would really believe us. And I knew somebody who was very sensing, and they were like, that I did share this with, and they were like, "Oh, that's never going to happen. Like, it's never going to happen. I don't know, I've never seen anything like that." And then she was out there scrambling uh, to fill the pantry um, sometime later. Now, we could have been wrong, and we would have been fine. Okay, so we'll be eating lots of pasta and, you know, um, uh, canned goods for a while, right? But it served us well in that case. Reality shaping power. Uh, yeah, but not everybody's going to be swayed by the same information as you will be on the basis of your type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, there's going to be more things that just resonate depending on what your type is and how it's portrayed to you, right? That's why I like to use little analogies because they're intuitive, right? Like it's you know if you ever hear like the forest or the trees, right? The intuitive is going to see the forest because that's the whole picture, and then the sensor is going to see the individual trees because that's the details, right? Or the other one I kept saying where intuitives are going to think outside the box, but sensors are going to open the box and see what's inside to actually work with, right? Very practical, versus you know an intuitive wants to be more innovative and more creative.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting how just social conflicts can come from these things. That's really funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite examples are always like in the kitchen. That's my favorite because it's just so funny because there's so many like intuitive ways to go about cooking, but then one of the main things of cooking is like there's usually a recipe, right? Like it's a pretty objective thing, but then it's like you get those really good chefs sometimes that are just like throw a little bit of this in there, give it a little how you doing, right? Give it a sniff, see if you like it. Like it's like that those are very intuitive instructions. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really funny. And even, I know I was talking about like engineering and auto mechanics being more sensing, but I've also seen intuitives do that too because they can intuitively figure out like where things are supposed to go, right? Like they don't necessarily have a roadmap that showed them, or they didn't necessarily take it apart in a certain sequence and they're putting it back together. They're kind of just messing around under the hood and they're
Yeah.
kind of figuring things out, right? There's that possibility too. And it's very, very interesting. Musicians as well, right? I'm a musician, and as an intuitive, I don't know how to read music. I never learned. I wish I learned, but I don't. I can play you many songs and many chords, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't
He's
really.
amazing.
No, I'm all right. I appreciate you, but
No, he's
you know,
amazing.
I can't actually like write out the sheet music for you of what I'm playing. I know what it sounds like, and I know what my hands need to
Mm-hmm.
do, and I didn't actually know what notes made the chords until much later in life. But then there's other musicians that I know that you can put down sheet music in front of them, and since they have the formula and the attention to detail, they can play it, right? Like sight reading and music is such a foreign concept to me, right? And sensors usually strive at that, whereas intuitives kind of strive more at playing by ear and kind of improvising and stuff. So like my classically trained friends that play piano and stuff, they claim that they're jealous of me that I can just, kind of hear something and play it for the most part. But then I'm the opposite. I'm jealous that they can pick up a piece of music, put it in front of them, and just look at it and play. I'm like, well, how the hell do you do that?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how things can go both ways.
And this dimension that we're talking about, the sensing versus intuition or openness to experience, is about how we perceive the world. There are two different styles of perceiving it, right? And what
Mhm.
you're looking for in it, and what you're going to privilege. Sensors will say, well, that's a lovely conceptual idea there, Adrian, but come back to me when you've got the facts worked out.
Yeah.
So, where I may be able to sell an idea, or hey, let's go back to Adrian. Adrian's pitching to me an idea, and I'm good with the concepts. I'm good with the big picture, and we'll work out the details later. And of course, the devil is in the details, by the way. We intuitives learned that the
Oh
hard way. But
yeah. Yes.
um, but yeah, if I'm going to try to use reality shaping power on a group and I don't know that group, I better have my facts straight and the concepts there in order to sway an entire room of people that this might be the best way to go. So,
Yeah. And oh, I have a great story, a me and Ted story actually, about how when, us two intuitives, we didn't pay attention to the details and we made an oopsie. So we were,
oh, how many times has that happened?
I know, right? So we were doing a out of town training, right? It was a few hours away, and we for this specific training we like to use this prop. I can't really explain to you what this prop is because truthfully I don't know what it is.
We told this story. It's now applicable again, right? But
Did
yes,
we
we
tell the
told
story
this.
already?
We did, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the ambiguous object story,
The ambiguous
right?
object. Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
we talked about it on the podcast
yeah,
yet, but
yeah.
basically, Ted and I intuitively were like, we had all these like ideas of what we're gonna do with the ambiguous object, and we're like, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, and we're just having fun. We're packing up the car. We're talking about these things we're gonna do, and then we're halfway down the 401, and then Ted goes, oh my god, did we even pack it? Did we put the ambiguous object in the car? And I'm like, I thought you did.
Yeah.
So then we had to turn around because
Added
both
a
of
full
us
two
just
hours to the trip.
both of us didn't think to do like an inventory check, or
Hmm.
we were just throwing shit in the car and we were like, let's hit the road, right? We're having
Yep.
fun, we're talking about
Yeah.
big picture, right? We
Yeah.
have a big picture goal, we know where we're going.
Hmm.
Yeah, we just didn't really make
And
sure
that
we
that
had
was
things.
2 summers ago, and we've used it many times since. And actually, we're doing some training tomorrow where we're going to use that same ambiguous object. It has its own special crate that we bring it in because we
Hmm.
often unveil it. We'll have to put a picture of it one day, but the pictures never do justice to how
No,
repugnant this
it's
object is.
ugly.
And yeah, it really is. But anyway, we forgot it, and it was 2 hours of our lives we'll never get back. Although we enjoy driving together. So,
Yeah, we were
but
listening to
you
Dave
know
Matthews
where,
and
yeah, and
yeah.
and where it is right now, it's blocking the front door.
I noticed that every time I come over, it's right there.
Well, but now it's moved from the side at the front door to actually blocking the front door. Because if it's not blocking the front door, or I'll either won't bring it out tonight to put it in the vehicle for tomorrow, or if I don't do that, which is my ideal, it'll be right there, and we'll trip over it before I can't even open the door with it in the way because I'm working against my own inclination to do exactly what Adrian described.
Yeah,
Right?
working against
It's
your own personality. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
that's so
Yeah,
funny.
come up with these tricks to say, yeah, if I'm gonna forget something, it's gonna be in the details, right? Um, so yeah, it's I think the sensing intuition has a lot to do with um, you know, uh, reality shaping power
Hmm.
of
Yeah,
in some really big ways. Um, and um, and information power, as in what do you take as information?
yeah,
Sensors don't take concepts and ideas as anything complete. They hear them, they understand them, but now show me the facts. Show me how you arrived at that determination that the pandemic is going to hit, right? And we did a lot of sensing and intuition on that one. We started from an intuitive place. You know, we didn't know it was bacteria. We didn't know if it was, virus. We didn't know. No one really knew in the early stages, I don't believe, but we knew that both of those things don't respect international borders, and so it was like there was a logic that we saw on the grand scale that says if it's in the world and they haven't shut down all the flights around the world, it's going to find its way from wherever it started to wherever we are. And but you know, um, so we arrived at that reality and acted upon it from a predominantly, I think, a pretty balanced perspective. We had a theory, had a concept, and then we just tried to, over a number of weeks, as we were analyzing and hearing more about it. Um, okay, so once we determined it's coming and there's no way to know how it's even transmitted, what can we do? Well, we anticipated the need to isolate, right? Um, and I don't want to bring up any of the controversies and the ideas, what we should or shouldn't have done. It's all post hoc analysis, and I respect anybody's determinations as to where that went. But this is a story about how our brains crafted a version of reality starting from a very intuitive standpoint, not just out of the blue. I had worked with public health units a great deal, and I knew about population health, and I knew about. I'm not an expert in any of that, but you hang out with enough medical officers of health, and then you start to pick up the idea that you know uh, something that we don't have a natural immunity to will impact a population. So we came up with that, and it didn't. Well, it was stressful for everybody in the world, but we didn't have to rush out and compete in grocery lines at all because we really had what we needed. And if we went out, it was for some fresh milk or something, you know. So yeah,
Hmm.
because got to have our cereal, right?
Yeah. And
Our iced coffee.
speaking of fresh milk, I was actually going to go get some fresh oranges. Did I mention that right now? I'm
You
a
just did. You
huge
just did.
thing with oranges right now. It's
Oh, it's oranges is the thing, is it?
I
Yeah.
think recently it's like my after gym treat is
Ah,
I eat like 3 oranges.
good. That's a
They're
good
like
thing.
they're hydrating and
Hmm.
like you don't feel bad about eating them.
No, and they ward off scurvy,
They
you
ward off.
know.
I didn't know
Is
that one.
that? Oh yeah, oh, yeah. Well, vitamin C. Is, and scurvy still is a thing. It's
Yeah.
just vitamin C deficiency, but it's not pleasant.
I didn't actually know that.
Not that I've had it, but I heard some of the symptoms the other day. I don't know. I was listening to somebody else's podcast and heard about scurvy, and you had to go, oh, yeah, apparently it gives you terrible breath if you have scurvy too.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah, it's bad.
Well, I smell delightful,
Not,
so I don't have scurvy.
no, no, I didn't really think you
No.
had that. No. And then you're eating 3 oranges after every workout, and you work out all the time. So
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
Well,
there's reality for you. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we're we're past time already, and we got through two
Are we?
dimensions. So I mean,
Okay, so we got two more to go, and
two
then
more
we're
to
going to go
go.
into organizations of self because in their different versions of us, post or on top of personality at the core, we can show up in different expressions of ourselves and use power differently in those different expressions. In fact, those different expressions of ourselves and the different roles that we perform are fundamentally tied to our power schemas. Right, so we don't have one power schema. We've talked about that before. We have most of us have multiple, and so that's where we'll be going after we get through the next two dimensions of personality, and so that'll be next week. So
Mm.
tune in and learn your personality and learn how your personality likely relates to social power.
And on the second dimension, Iron Man is an intuitive, an N, and Captain America is an S, a sensor.
That is so obvious to me. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Now
So
that I hadn't compared the two in relation, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So yeah, stay tuned for the next episode to continue that journey as well.
If
So
nothing else, you'll learn the personality profiles of fictional comic book characters. There.
yep.
Yep.
All
Just unanticipated benefits to listening to this podcast. Yeah. Cool.
right. Well, yeah, we're Vogue's Leadership Group, and this is Social Power Lab, episode 16, and we will see you for episode 17.
Next week. Yeah. Thanks for listening, folks. And comments, like, follow, refer, please. We want to get the word out on
Refer.
social power. Refer. Yeah. Tell people. And because we want more people on the planet to understand social power so that we can continue to promote the ethical use of social power and make it more difficult for people with dark traits to exploit power that they will invariably try to amass, as we have spoken about in previous episodes. So, yeah. Thank
Yes.
you, Adrian, as always.
Oh, thank you, Jedi Master.
Yeah.
Awkward right before the sign off.
There you go. I have no words.
All right. Well, the Social Power Lab, we're Vogue's Leadership Group, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Social Power Lab podcast. Make sure you join us next week as we continue to uncover the hidden dynamics of social power all around us, because every conversation changes the world one interaction at a time. You can listen to the Social Power Lab podcast on YouTube under Social Power Lab _VLG, on Spotify under Social Power Lab, on Substack under Social Power Lab, and on Apple Podcast under Social Power Lab. Thank you and have a wonderful day. This podcast was produced by Trenton Vokes. The theme was produced and written by Adrian Deschamps.